What's up, y'all? You know what time it is? It's about to be that time.
Damn, son, where'd you find this?
Where on earth is Carmen Sandiego?
Tell me where is Carmen Sandiego? Savage.
And we're back. One Piece 1099 is out, and we are one chapter away from a new digit. And we know Oda's propensity for saving big moments for landmark chapters. So 1100, I do believe, will end the flashback, either 50% in or 75% in, and we'll get Kuma landing in front of Saturn. I'm also still very much hoping for something with Dragon in the main timeline, because it will be 1,000 chapters from his introduction in the story. 1100 should be very focused on the idea of Saturn and Kuma. Saturn getting involved in everything that's going on with Kuma. What we have here is Oda really flexing the artificial intelligence, the science fiction of what this arc is supposed to be. And Kuma always was that character. To me, he's always been based on Arnold Schwarzenegger. And as we see and get to learn more about who Kuma is, it becomes even more, not just the Terminator, right? But actually Arnold Schwarzenegger himself. The man was an athlete, and then an actor, and then a politician. He was also a real estate agent before even becoming an actor. So there's a lot of things that he did in his life, just like Kuma was a king, a tyrant, a pirate, a cyborg, a revolutionary. There's a lot of similarities there. But what Oda is trying to do here is a lot of Frankenstein, and it is a lot of Terminator. Yeah, there's a lot of this going on here. And especially James Cameron's views on technology are spilling into the pages of these particular chapters. I'm reminded of a scene from Terminator 2, Judgment Day. Judgment Day, Biblical, Bible, Kuma. Miles Bennett Dyson is a character that essentially is responsible for 3 billion deaths. He is responsible for Judgment Day, the end of the world. A machine comes in Terminator 1. He's the guy that starts studying the remnants and parts of the destroyed Terminator, and then indirectly is responsible for designing and ending the world. He gets told this information, and he explains that his initial thoughts and plans for everything were benevolent. He wanted to do good in the world. What if a pilot could fly a plane and never have to sleep, never make an error? It's coming from a good place. This idea of Kuma and Vegapunk working together to create the pacifistas so that they can heal the world and protect the world, how is that any different from the army getting involved with Skynet and thinking that they could have soldiers to protect people, right? And then you have governments getting in the way and saying, well, we could also use these for war. Just like in Frankenstein. Dr. Frankenstein builds his creation, but what we build comes back to destroy us. Saturn is going to get involved in this process of building Kuma, and Kuma will arrive at Egghead, in my belief, to destroy him. And how fitting would that be for the godhead of science to fall to one of his creations? Kuma creates a gigantic pain bubble, maybe takes Luffy's pain, and just like what happened in the Solo Revolution incident of Sorbet Kingdom, right, we get the Egghead incident, which is just the biggest Ursa shock we've ever seen. But now that I've nerded out about Terminator, I want to talk about Bonney and an idea that came up during the stream about what if Bonney's fruit chose her? And then we're going to talk about the idea of fruits choosing their owners and what other instances there may have been in the story that tie this together. Here we go, but first, like, comment, subscribe if you're feeling the vibe. So during the 1099 stream, Spartan Gibbles brought this idea to me from the Discord, which was first mentioned by Soge King, but apparently Tekking may have been talking about this as well. The idea of devil fruits choosing their owners. Not something that has never been brought up before either, but in this particular instance, Bonney just happens to have her ability out of nowhere. We never see her eat the fruit. She is in a church, a very secluded church in the first place, that she has never left basically for the past couple of years. So how did this fruit mysteriously appear? She's a glutton, so if it got, mixed in with some other stuff, sure. But what we have also been told from Vegapunk is that everything we owe to desire. The ancient kingdom was able to will and wish for things, and they came true. Bonney's ability may be born from that desire that Vegapunk was talking about. You have a little girl here who knows nothing of the outside world, and all she can think about is, when I am 10, when I am older, when my age changes, I'll be able to see the world and go out to sea with Dad and go to Sky Islands and all these types of things, right? That amount of desire, that amount of will that she had may have actually manifested the age fruit for her. We've been told that the fruits, when they reincarnate, will go to the nearest fruit, right? But maybe there's more to that. What if it doesn't have to be the nearest fruit? What if somebody desires that particular power so badly that it will actually have a transference and go somewhere else? Now that's getting into more of the wacky fantasy elements of One Piece, right? There are logical explanations. Maybe Kuma accidentally killed somebody while he was trying to take out Bakori, right? Well, he didn't kill Bakori, but he killed somebody else and they had the age fruit. Somebody else was on the island and they were killed by Bakori and they had the age fruit, and then it ended up on the south side of Sorbet in the church. Bonney eats it. People were saying, what if Bonney has had it her whole life and just managed to randomly figure out how to use it? That I don't buy as much, because even Chopper was able to almost immediately turn into his hybrid form after eating his fruit, or at least that's the implication, right? Did Chopper's fruit choose him? Was it because he was such an outcast that he thought in his mind maybe he would be better off if he wasn't a reindeer, right? Oh, my blue nose, something. And then the human fruit, model something, appears in front of him, and now he eats that. But then the irony is that, he's not really accepted in either world until he finds the Straw Hats. There are implications that the Nika fruit chose Luffy. I don't think I necessarily need to get into those, because I feel like that kind of talk has been beaten to death. Blackbeard literally says that the fruit chose him, which is where a lot of this dialogue comes from in the first place. He sat on Whitebeard's ship waiting for the fruit, and then eventually it does show up. Thatch gets it, right? But it called to him. It made him kill Thatch so he could have the fruit, maybe. Depends on how sentient these fruits are meant to be. Did Buggy's fruit choose him? Is that how it ended up on Roger's ship? Buggy wanted to sell it for the money, but when he got scared by Shanks, he instinctively ate it instead. Was the fruit calling to him, asking to be eaten? Kaku eats a fruit, and what does it end up being? His favorite animal. He says, I love giraffes. It can't be a coincidence at that point. Man eats the fruit, it's his favorite animal. The other really interesting thing about the Kaku and Khalifa situation is that they had no idea what fruits they were eating before they ate them. And it was said that those fruits were not even in the encyclopedia. So, what if it is a situation where Kaku and Khalifa were able to essentially choose and create those fruits? What if it was a completely new thing where it was their desires that gave them exactly what they wanted? Kaku became his favorite animal, and maybe Khalifa is super OCD. I don't know, and she just wanted to be clean.
I just want to be pure.
Smoker, he eats the smoke fruit. Come on. Momonosuke, he's looking for food, and then he is called and drawn into this room where he eats the artificial devil fruit of the symbol of his nightmares, right? And then he's able to recontextualize what that symbol means for the people of Wano also. It's poetic, but is it deeper? Was it meant to happen? There's no fate but what we make for ourselves. Vegapunk was playing with fate, and he made this happen by creating that fruit. But I think the biggest instance of this that we've seen recently is Kuma. Kuma, who literally just wants to get away, eats a fruit that allows him to go wherever he needs to go, to escape God Valley, and to save as many people as he possibly can. It's poetic. You could say that there is poetry to a lot of the connections between these fruits and the users of these fruits. Not everyone's, because I think that the devil fruit trade and game, sometimes these fruits just end up in front of somebody and they end up eating them, but that's not always the case. I mean, even Ace, you could say, was somebody who had their fruit called to them, and then Sabo, in turn, taking that fruit. And in terms of things that I do hope we get to eventually, the actual reasoning behind Kuma sending all of the Straw Hats to these islands that we see him visit in this particular chapter. If you didn't realize, all of those islands that he's going to are the ones that he sends the Straw Hats to. Torino Kingdom with the birds and the medicine and all that, he sends Chopper there. You see him go to Muggy Kingdom, that is Mihawk's island. You see Weatheria, where he sends Nami. You see Abdullah and Jeet, he gets into a battle with 2 members of the Grand Fleet from Dressrosa. If you forgot those guys, that's who those guys are. And the interesting thing about seeing Abdullah and Jeet in this chapter is one of the facts that we know about them is that they were ex-bounty hunters that after a bombing incident became pirates. So this is Oda showing us when they actually were bounty hunters. He goes to Baltimore, Vegapunk's hometown, right? So he knows that he's going to send Frankie there. The Boeing Archipelago has a conversation with Heracles, probably talking about rare plants and how, the medicinal effects of those could work to try and heal Bonney. We also see Tequila Wolf. Unless Kuma knew that the Revolutionary Army was going to make a stance against Tequila Wolf, it seems kind of weird that he would send Robin there. But there are some places that are conveniently absent. Kamabaka makes sense because he already knows Ivankov, so by sending Sanji there, that was just protecting Sanji, and we don't see the island that Brook went to, and we also don't see Amazon Lily. The key thing here is that all of these islands, very specifically, are connected to the Straw Hats. Kuma very poignantly chooses where he's going to send each of the Straw Hats. Okay, which means he did his homework on everybody. All right, you're the doctor, you're going to Torino. Oh, you're the navigator and you have, kind of this weather theme, right? So you're going to go to the Sky Island with Area. Oh, you're a cyborg too. Let me send you to Baltimore. Go check out Vegapunk's old stuff. But he sends Luffy to Amazon Lily, which means that he thought that Luffy had some sort of a connection to Amazon Lily. Now, this has been brought up countless times. We know that there were other empresses of Amazon Lily, and there's one that's particularly missing. The oldest one we know of is Gloriosa, then it was Shaki, then it's question mark, and then Boa, right? So question mark, people have speculated, is that Luffy's mom? Maybe? Who knows? And it almost seems more likely, right? Because Kuma knows that Dragon is Luffy's dad. And by knowing Dragon, he would know that Dragon had an affair with one of the empresses of Amazon Lily. So sending Luffy over there is just like, hey, I'm sending you to where your mom's from. Maybe if we find out that Luffy's mom is the other empress, then it ties into why Kuma would even send Luffy there. Now, I'm not saying that it needs to happen, but we do need to understand why Kuma sent Luffy there in the first place. Everything else had a point, had a purpose. Even Sanji was able to find out about, really powerful cooking techniques and recipes from everybody on Kamabaka. Yeah, Hancock was able to help Luffy out, etc., etc. But why did he send him there? So hopefully we find something out about that. Because it was even hinted at the beginning of the time skip. Zoro, I think, said something to the effect after Frankie broke down everything about Kuma, like, one day I hope we learn a little bit more about his, actions. I'm paraphrasing. But this is an opportunity to do it, and I actually hope it comes from Bonney, because Bonney has been inside Kuma's memories. So if she is sailing with the crew for a little bit until she can get pawned off to the Revolutionary Army, because I don't think that Bonnie's going to join, but I think that she will go to the Revolutionary Army, she has an opportunity to kind of explain her father's actions by having lived through his memories. And I think that that would be a poetic thing after Kuma's already died in this arc, that they find out why he did everything for them to help them, because he knew something that they don't know. And then now they do know it going into the final saga. And even if it isn't something that has to do with Luffy's mom, it should have something to do with the end game of the story, particularly for Luffy. Because just knowing who his mom is isn't really going to play into getting the One Piece or anything like that. So it's almost not as strong of a motivation as it was for everybody else. Maybe it's more than that, but that's a fun element either way. And who was Saturn talking to at the end? Right now I'm just Occam's razoring that it's Kizaru, but it would be interesting if the owner of the black transponder snail is someone else that we don't know. Maybe something of a twist. We'll see, we'll find out. But I do believe that Saturn will play a heavy role in the next chapter, getting involved in this. We'll see Kuma become a warlord, which is another interesting thing because it means that Kuma is potentially the person who took the warlord spot when Ace turned it down. So the other question is, who was the warlord that they replaced? A placeholder person for me is someone like Captain John, right? If he survives God Valley, what if he was a warlord? Then he dies, Moria takes his body, they offer Ace the position, but ultimately they give it to Kuma, meaning that Kuma has only been a warlord for roughly 4 years. And the timeline of that checks out for me. Now, it's not canon, but hypothetically speaking, whoever Kuma replaced would probably also be the person who took Zephyr's arm, unless we are saying that it was Marine Hunter Mihawk, which maybe it could have been. I just want to know more about the Warlord system, because it's one of my favorite systems in the series. And eventually we'll have to get into Wang Zhi, who, Wang Shi, who in real life is basically the blueprint for the Warlord system. Because there was a Wang Zhi that operated between China and Japan as a pirate, working for governments taking out other pirates. So when we get into the Rocky Port incident and everything with Wang Zhi, it should be very ingrained in just the Warlord system. There were a lot of positions that needed to get filled, and if it was a thing where they wanted Wang Zhi to take one of those spots, and Law went there, and Blackbeard, to fight Wang Zhi, and Law took the spot that they were going to give to Wang Zhi away from him, that ties into my own headcanon of just bringing the real world of it all into One Piece, which Oda always does. But that's going to wrap things up for this review, this analysis. Thank you so much, guys, for tuning in. I hope my ideas were interesting. I want to thank everybody that supports the channel, that supports us. Shout out to all of the members. We will be here. We will be seated for 1100 this Sunday. We'll also be watching on Saturday the Cross Guild episode, which is covering the events of 1058. We'll get Crocodile going off, and that is my GOAT. So we will be there. And then following that, I think I'm going to be using the second channel, dusting it off for any future anime watch-throughs, and we may bring back the Chainsaw Man content as well over on that channel. So if you're not subscribed to the second channel, link is in the description, and we'll see how that works out. We make a smooth transition for that stuff. But other than that, leave a comment below on who you think Saturn was talking to. Is it Kizaru? Who is it? Craziest thing is if it's Dragon, right? Watch, this whole time this man's been playing everybody. No, I'm not saying it's Dragon. That would be terrible. It would be a twist. Just wouldn't be a good one. All right, guys. Like, comment, subscribe if you're feeling the vibe. Later.
I've been swimming deep, deep. Savage.